Good stuff. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm here hanging out. I don't like calling them interviews. I don't really like to call them interviews because I don't think of them as interviews. I think of them more as just conversations. So today
Mm-hmm.
I just get to hang out with my good friend Cody Darwick for, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 an hour, however long it takes, whatever we got to do.
Yeah, I
We
feel
get
you,
to
man.
we get to hang out a little bit. Looks like Duke just scored, so this one looks like it's going to be out of touch, so I can turn that off now. But Cody, man, thank you so much. Cody is partnership manager at Webpals Group. Is that how you say it?
That is right. Yes.
Very adorable little name there. And he is also the host of the Full Slate podcast. Thanks for taking some time to chat with me today, man. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here. I love the adorable plug there.
Yeah, well,
Means a
hey,
lot.
web pals. I mean, come on, if someone said web pals to you, is the first thing you think of a betting betting kind of tilt, or do you
No,
think of kind of like those little like Nintendogs and shit like that?
yeah, no, I feel that it's a hurdle I got over myself a couple weeks ago starting a new job. But yeah, so Webpals Group, they are a subsidiary of a larger gaming affiliate company and kind of just online marketing firm called Excel Media. So they are listed on the London Stock Exchange. But yeah, man, it's doing the podcast on the side, coming in from the finance world.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of made the pivot there. So yes, excited to hop
Yeah.
on the pod and be a guest instead of the
What's
host.
up? Yeah, right. It's got to be cool. I always like being a guest on other people's podcasts just because it's fun. You get like I don't know. It's just a different perspective. I think it's more enjoyable, a little different.
It is very different. I mean, so I host Full Slate with my brother Tyler. So it's that one. It's not like a you're doing the intro, so in that sense you're the host. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of the standard sibling kind of bickering back and forth and conversation around sports betting. But yeah, when we have the guests on, you're kind of playing the role of kind of co-point guard because you're both kind of controlling the interview. But
There you
it's,
go.
I mean,
Combo
you've been,
guards.
yeah, exactly. Everyone's favorite term. I see you wearing the Knicks sweatshirt, so
Now
your boy.
Mets more depressing if you
Oh,
ask me.
Mets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mets, same colors. Yeah, New York got like one thing right where three other teams have the same colors, and then the rest just make absolutely no sense. So it's kind of whatever. But yeah, it's depressing being a Mets fan, but I'm sure it's pretty depressing being a Knicks fan too.
Yeah. What do you think about Steve Cohen today? I read some of
Oh,
that.
oh yeah. You want to talk about that? Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just
Yeah.
fire away, man. The
Sure.
Wilpons suck. I have never in my life enjoyed any part of their ownership other than maybe like the fact that they gave David Wright some money. Well deserved. It obviously
Mm-hmm.
didn't work out, but it was nice of them. I guess signing Jacob deGrom to what now kind of looks like a team friendly deal. I guess.
That definitely is
Yeah, I mean,
compared
now
to the other
when
money given
you look at
out.
Cole, it's ridiculous.
Oh,
But yeah, man, I mean, I can't believe two people they just don't know what they're doing clearly. And I don't believe in public. As you like betting, and we'll get into it. You don't really watch or pay attention to the public too much, or actually you do because they're usually wrong. But when you see so many people just come out viscerally against the ownership group, you have to think there's something wrong with them, right?
yeah.
Like there's nothing else. I don't know.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, I feel like Mets fans, one of the happiest days of their lives, if they weren't alive for the last time they won the World Series, right, was this Steve Cohen news kind of kicking Will Ponds out. And I didn't have a chance to follow it earlier, but when I was at the gym earlier, humble brag. I saw the New York Post article I read, and kind of seems like the Will Ponds. I didn't remember this, but they did it with another
Back in
finance
2011.
guy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
David Einhorn. And it seems like they kind of had Steve Cohen come to the finish line here, and they slipped some things. They kind of reneged on some of the legal terms that seemed like they were agreed upon. I don't understand what they're doing. It seems like to me, like if you want to get out of it, get out of it. And the guys they're dealing with are no slouches here.
Exactly, right?
Steve
You're trying to
Cohen.
like work over some $14 billion net worth guy. Like he's not gonna fuck around with that. That's ridiculous.
Right, like he didn't fall into family money. Steve Cohen's very much like a self-made man.
He's not a good person, but
Yeah,
he's a self-made man. I'll give you that.
he's got an interesting past, I'd say.
Yes, good way to put it.
Yes, loosely the acts in billions, loosely based on Steve Cohen. But no, I don't know. I don't understand what they're doing there. I think you're a Mets fan. I mean, you got some young talent, right? Between Alonso, Jeff McNeil, obviously DeGrom, Syndergaard, always kind of hyped up, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's actually there. I'm personally a San Francisco Giants fan, so I feel grateful to miss the boat on that front. Growing up in New Jersey, my dad is a Giants fan,
Mm-hmm.
back from Willie Mays days, so I've been fortunate on that front. Although I'm in for a long haul here. Giants are going to be bad for a little bit, but I got my even year glory. So
I was gonna say you have the
I really I can't
that even year
complain.
bullshit. That was three nice years you had. I have a couple buddies that are big San Francisco Giants fans as well. So I always we talk about that. Not much. I can't really say much. I just say I hate you, and that's about it.
Yeah, I say magic, you say bullshit. It is I the beholder, right? But I think yeah, I don't know. I still have some positive memories of Connor Gillespie, his only career highlight, that wild card walk off
Yeah,
versus
yeah, yep, yeah,
versus
yep.
Mets. But
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
know, everyone catches lightning in a bottle at some point in time. So some more than others, you know.
Yeah,
That's
man.
that's
It's
sports.
it is, yes. Connor Gillespie, what a name. Love hearing that get brought up every once in a while. But yeah, I mean the Mets. I was actually at the World Series in 2015. I was at the one game that they won, which was pretty cool. In my opinion, they
Oh.
should have won that World Series. Um, first team to ever blow 3 saves in a single series before. So that's pretty incredible. Again, I guess eye of the beholder. We can use different words: incredible, ridiculous,
Mm-hmm.
unimaginable. That's another good one. But it is what it is, man. And yeah, I mean, it's how I don't know what the Wilpons are doing. I don't. If someone says, "Hey, do you want $2.6 billion?" and everyone will stop hating you, actually, people will start to like you again. I feel like most people would be like, this is probably a good thing to do, but no, they aren't doing it, and here we are. We get to see what happens. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I don't know.
Or if you offer me $2.6 billion and you're still gonna hate me, I think
That's true too.
I'll
Great
swallow my
point.
pride and
Great point.
and figure it out.
We
But
just never have to hear about him again. But that's enough Mets. I don't. Not today. I appreciate you bringing it up, but not today. This is good. Thank you again for hanging out. Maybe we can just end it there and just call it a night. But I have a couple questions for
call
you. So
quits.
I think we'll keep.
February 4th Mets talk. Who doesn't love that?
Hey man, spring training's in a couple days, so I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Or pitchers and catchers. I'm sorry, pitchers and catchers.
Pitchers, catchers. Yeah.
Like a week and a half in certain cases. So pretty excited about that. But Cody,
Mhm.
first question I always like to ask, other than how big of a Mets fan are you, is why I usually ask it, where does your love of sports come from? And after about 20 episodes of everybody telling me, well, me and my dad really love sports together, I've decided to kind of give it a different angle. Is why do you love sports so much?
Sure. It's a great question. I think it's like there's a couple facets for it. For me at least, I think growing up, kind of what you touched on, the dad piece, that's definitely an element to just kind of growing up watching. I grew up in New Jersey, but I'll say unique sports teams I root for. So I said San Francisco Giants. I'm a 49ers fan and
Ooh.
also a Lakers fan. Yeah, 49ers. Don't really want to talk about that just yet.
Well, we
But
talked about the Mets, so we'll see what happens.
yeah, we can touch on it if you want to just rip open an open wound even further. But so I think there's an element of growing up watching the games and just kind of the nostalgia piece. And I played sports growing up, baseball in high school, basketball as well, just throughout kind of childhood, didn't play in high school. But I think there's like the team aspect of it, of just always kind of believing that like what you can do as a team is kind of greater than the individual. There's the role model element to like, obviously a lot of these athletes have done things that are not great in their personal lives, but the element that like someone can be so great at what they do and kind of perform at the highest level is something I've always been intrigued in. Being a Lakers fan, obviously the Kobe thing
Mm-hmm.
hit pretty close home for me. His personal life, it's not perfect. And I think the thing that's so admirable to me specifically about Kobe, who's kind of been my favorite athlete throughout the course of my life, just the whole Mamba mentality and like what that means, just kind of approaching everyday life, like no matter what you do, whatever like little box you live in and whatever your career is, or even if your career, maybe you're unhappy with it, but whatever you want to do, like approach that and try and do it to the best of your ability. And of course, there are times when you're tired or you're sick or like you're just feeling lazy, but just like trying to think. I know I try and do it sometimes of if I'm like kind of in a rut, like in a sense it's corny, but like what would Kobe do? So I think all those different aspects and just kind of the community as well. Cheering, I went to Indiana University, so a huge college basketball fan in school. I was there when we beat Kentucky on the buzzer beater when Anthony
Whoa.
Davis was at UK, right? So like moments like that you like are there together with your friends, and kind of memories that like you'll never forget. So I think there's all those kind of the nostalgia, having like something to cheer for that's like outside of maybe your specific bubble. So even if you work in sports, but be able to follow something else and kind of give people that escape. And also just kind of the inspirational aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, you touch upon like a lot of great things. Obviously the Kobe stuff. It's definitely. Yeah, I was never a Laker fan. I was never a huge Kobe guy. Like I respect the hell out of what he's done. It's incredible. I watched, like weirdly enough, like just had some of the 81-point game on. It was like on. If I remember correctly, it was like on TV, or I was watching another game, and they would pretty much like every 5 minutes just stop that game and just show you all the clips from what he was doing. And they're like, guys, like Kobe has like 60 whatever at half, like let's see what he can do. Because then there was another game that season, if I'm not mistaken, where he had 60 like 4 3/4 or something.
Yeah,
and everyone was pissed out that he got taken out for the fourth quarter. They're like, what are you doing, man? So I mean, there's just so many things, him specifically, just the mentality, the ferociousness that he attacked life with. If I could attack anything I did with 1/10 the intensity he does, and I don't think of myself as a very lazy person. I just think of him in that high of regards. If I could attack anything with 1/10 he did, I think I would be unstoppable. And we saw he was pretty much unstoppable in anything he did, whether it was basketball, all the things he was doing outside with his businesses, obviously with his family. So it was very unfortunate, and it's still kind of one of those things where it maybe like a couple days ago, it finally set in, like, oh, like he's gone. Like he's not, it felt like a movie. I think Kawhi Leonard even said it. Like it kind of felt like a movie. You kind of felt like someone was going to come out and be like, all right, scene, like, okay, let's go back to what we were doing. It's just, it's crazy how it's happened so far.
Yeah, it's definitely surreal. And I think my personal experience when I found out, I was started a new job 2 weeks ago, and I was the company's headquartered in Israel. So I was out there, and I went to a Maccabi Tel Aviv game, basically like the Israeli Premier League. And they're kind of the class of their league, and they had a rivalry game. So the atmosphere was wild, and I'm there with one of my new coworkers, and midway through second quarter, he turns to me, he's like, TMZ just reported an article, Kobe passed away. Like, what? And then, like, I don't know, you kind of hope that TMZ's wrong.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Then, even in Israel, which is, I mean, you're in New Jersey, right?
New Jersey, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm in New York. So, I mean, it's a 10-hour flight away. And I kind of start sensing, like, I'm on my phone on Twitter, kind of scrolling through it in shock. But I see that everyone else, like, again, 10 hours away in a totally different country, is also on their phone doing it. Then everyone, they show, like, on the big screen, once it's finally kind of confirmed after Woj reports it, they show kind of Kobe Bryant and Memorial, 1978-2020, a picture of him. And the entire stadium starts breaking out in a Kobe Bryant chant, which was just like so insane. And like, that's the kind of thing that I spoke about it with my brother on the podcast. I don't know how many people would actually get that reaction, whether it was an athlete or just like a celebrity death, like in general. And I think a lot of that is really the point, what we kind of touch on, like him being a larger than life figure, and being almost a superhero in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Like if
100%, yeah.
Right, like he retires and then next year wins an Oscar, like
right,
stuff like that.
That's not real life. Exactly, it's a movie. Like that's not real life, and that's why it's crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, he tears his Achilles and he hits both free throws, and then walks off the court. Nobody walks off the court when they have an Achilles injury. Knock on wood. I've never had one, but apparently it just feels like you're like the tendon snaps and you just can't, like, it doesn't function. But for him, it does, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that sports kind of gives you, that escape and that ability to just kind of like immerse yourself and kind of take inspiration from different people.
And the inspiration, but you also touch upon like the emotional aspect of it. You said, sitting in that stadium when, Indiana beat Kentucky, sitting in at that game where the Kobe Bryant chant breaks out. I have found nothing for me personally that doesn't affect me in an emotional way like sports does or will or has, just like feeling like I believe in energy. I believe in vibes, all that kind of stuff. And, again, being at that Mets game, the World Series, you could feel it. I don't know what it was, but there was something there, and you can 100% feel it in every single cell in your body. And it is amazing. And I wouldn't trade that feeling for anything in the world, especially when, David Wright hits a home run and, everything's going crazy. Syndergaard throws first pitch at what's his face's head. That whole, like, all of that. It was,
right?
I think so. I want to say Escobar, but I can't remember, but whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, man, it's incredible. And there's just something about that feeling that you'll never get anywhere else. And then you brought up something else, working, going back to the Kobe part, working, maybe doing something you don't like and, giving it your all overtime to get to something you do like. So now, we've been chatting for like 20 minutes and it's been great, but I definitely want to talk about you a little bit too and really understand. As you said, you started in finance. If I have the timeline correct, you started in finance, you were at a couple different jobs. Then you started the podcast and then, podcast about sports betting. And now you have, you're working in sports betting, which is really cool. So tell me a little bit about that timeline. And did you dislike finance? Was you just way more interested in betting? Like what exactly was going on around that time?
Sure. I'll give you my little 2-minute elevator pitch here. So like I said, I went to Indiana University. I was in the business school there, majored in finance. First job out of school was at an insurance company, kind of in their finance program with a bunch of undergrads. And basically, it's a rotational thing. So you have a couple different roles, which was good because I graduated college. I had an interest in finance. I liked numbers. I was kind of like, oh, this is practical. I think this is what I want to do. I don't know. And then you get to real world and you're like, okay, this seems fine. Like kind of like the paycheck, the job's good. The job's good enough. And then my last job was at a fund of hedge funds. So we basically invested in other hedge funds. I worked on the investor relations and then later the operations team. And I kind of was pretty close to it. It was a smaller firm, so I was able to see a lot of different things. And the more I was like just honest with myself about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, like it's just not for me long term. So I didn't know what I wanted next. I've always had this passion for sports and just like I've been a recreational bettor since college. And when PASPA was repealed in 2018, so basically for anyone who's listening doesn't know what that is, Supreme Court repealed the rule that basically said sports gambling is illegal in the U.S. except for Nevada. It basically allowed individual states to legalize it at their own wish. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But again, at that point, I didn't act on it. But then my brother and I, we started our own podcast called Full Slate. Just really as a creative outlet because we watch the stuff, the kind of origin of it. We did our cousin has run this pick'em pool for years, NFL pick'em. So every game against the spread. And like we would talk during the week and kind of chop it up, whether just like general catching up at each game. And it was always like fun to do. So like, why don't we just start a podcast and see where
just click record, right? Like screw it, why not? We're talking about it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And like when we started, I was like, I don't know who's gonna listen to this, but we'll put it out there and like it'll feel good to be productive outside the day job, right? To just like have something that you're working towards. So through that, I was able to kind of use the podcast, one, we knew that we wanted to have guests on to spice it up. So that's a good way to meet people in the industry, whether it was some of our mutual friends, like we had Jack Settlement on, we had Scott San Amaterio on. So people that worked kind of in the media, sports gambling media, CEOs for startups in the space. And the more I got immersed in it, the more I was kind of like, oh, this is actually really interesting because it combines a lot of things I'm interested in, which is one, sports, two, sports betting, but the way it is in the US, it's such like a nascent industry, legally, right? Obviously it's been ingrained in the culture for years, kind of more taboo, but there's a lot of startups in the space and innovation that's coming into the space, and every state is really kind of treating it in a totally different way. So it's all across the board, and that's kind of how I fell into my current role, just through the podcast, networking, and Webpals. Essentially, what we do is we're a digital marketing company. So we basically specialize in user acquisition for different sports books. So the host of websites and publishing services that we provide, and hope to basically drive users to the different sports books, FanDuel, DraftKings, etc.
Very cool. Yeah, man. I mean, I think your story is really interesting. I mean, the last time we spoke was probably before, it was probably like November, December timeframe, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, a while ago.
yeah, it was a minute ago. Before, I remember you telling me you were looking for new jobs. I tried to hook you up with some people. Obviously, I don't think it worked out as well as I hoped, but hey, it's the thought that counts, right? So
yeah, for sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah, hey, man.
It's I mean, for anyone that wants to like do that pivot, it takes a lot of work to like figure out A, what you want, B, how to even think about getting there. And like that was a piece of starting the podcast for us. We're like, everyone in the world kind of wants to work in sports, generally speaking, right? Like what does that mean? What are you doing to get there besides watching Red Zone on Sundays? So we figured that could be a useful differentiator. Yeah, and I'm happy it worked out.
Yeah, man. I think, having a podcast is a blast. I love it. It lets me have conversations like this where we can just talk about how much we hate the Mets, and then don't forget. I didn't, the Super Bowl was a couple days ago, so I won't let you forget about it yet. But it's really interesting how much you can do. As you said, you use it as a creative outlet. And it never really occurred to me that something like this, talking can be a creative outlet. It's really interesting, but thankfully it can be, because that's the thing that I am, in my opinion, the best at, is I'm able to talk to people and have conversations and just ask questions and just kind of see and understand, be more interested than interesting. You mentioned Jack Settlement, you mentioned Scott San Amaterio. Please go back and check out their episodes. They're a little bit earlier on the slate here. So there were some pretty good ones too. But yeah, man, I think, what you guys do, I'm not going to sit here and lie. I've definitely listened to a couple of the episodes, haven't listened to all of them. But I think the way you guys, as you said, sibling bickering is very spot on. You and your brother just kind of BS about what's going on and how it's going on. I think it is pretty cool. And with that, like, so you obviously always enjoyed gambling, but at what point did you decide, like, hey, I don't really want to do the finance thing anymore. I actually kind of want to, like, see how I can maneuver this into a job. I know you said, that long term, but like, how did you go about networking? And as you said, it was a long process. So if you don't mind telling me, kind of how the sausage was made a little bit, I think people would be interested in that.
Sure. A lot of being okay with, I think, getting no for an answer, honestly.
Yeah, that happens.
But it was a lot of, it's a process, took a while for me. A little over a year, probably, like all in, once I was like, I think, on sports betting. A lot of LinkedIn reach out, really. LinkedIn is a powerful tool. So that's the starting point. Like, you kind of be surprised how many people will accept a cold, just even if what LinkedIn has the various classifications, right? So if we have a mutual connection, I would try and leverage if maybe that person knew them for some kind of intro. Or if not, I would just shoot like a brief note being like, hey, this is what I'm currently doing. This is what I think I want to do. I would love to chat and kind of learn more about your experience. And I was surprised by the amount of people that were open to those conversations. Because oftentimes when you'd speak to them, they would say, yeah, like, because I would thank them and be like, I appreciate that you took the time to kind of talk to me, 15 minutes, whatever it may be. And they're like, no, I'm always happy to do these kind of things. This is how I got in. So I think that was a big part of it. And then just trying to figure out like what I'm currently doing in my job, like what I was doing in my finance job that could be applicable to this sports betting industry, whether it's kind of the ability to look at numbers and kind of analyze them and figure out, drive insights, or also just kind of like, you just have to kind of figure out a way to differentiate yourself, right? So the podcast was an excuse and a conversation starter, but then at the end of the day, you just kind of have to, you have to be able to. Wow, I just saw Mookie Betts.
Yeah, Mookie
traded
Betts.
to the
I was good. Yeah,
Dodgers.
I was gonna let you finish your thought because I was really enjoying it. But yeah, traded to the Dodgers, so I'm really curious what that one's gonna look like.
Oh
So
my God,
I was
that
gonna say, as a Giants
sucks.
fan, I mean, you guys are gonna be bad, but damn, that's gonna be crazy.
What are the what are the Red Sox doing? I don't understand. It's not like they're this small market team in Tampa that like
Nope.
can't give this guy a $400 million contract. And David Price.
And David Price, which pretty much means it was contract. It was money. They just didn't feel like paying anybody.
Oh my God!
Kind of
If I
ridiculous.
was a Red Sox fan, Jesus, that's brutal.
I have a couple friends that are getting text messages when we're done, but until then, I'll keep hanging out with you.
Are you a Bill Simmons fan? He's gonna be insufferable.
I like it when things like this happen to Bill Simmons.
Yeah,
Like I'll listen to Bill Simmons after the Patriots lose or after, the Yankees I hate the Yankees. I hate the Red Sox almost as much though. So,
really?
I hate them until the Yankees are out, or I like them until the Yankees are out. Then I hate the Red Sox too, just because they're the same thing. Like whoever is the asshole that thinks that they're this different now, it's like, no, it's not 2004 anymore, guys. Like they both spend like maniacs. Like who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, to me, I have such fond memories of them coming back in 04.
Oh God,
from that
yeah,
3-0
I love
deficit.
it.
Fever pitch.
Well, okay, yeah,
great movie.
Great rom-com. There you go. Jimmy Fallon's been in so many movies since, so it took off his acting career.
Yeah,
but,
people don't talk about that being a launching point for him. Maybe the peak of Cameron Diaz's career, but no, I that sucks that he's going to the Dodgers. Well, I mean, I saw the rumors the Padres, but yeah, I mean, in terms of back to your original question about how and like the process, just a lot of like setting like there's the initial LinkedIn process, selling yourself and thinking about what you do in your current job, even if it's not like, oh, I worked for a DFS company. Because honestly, quite frankly, if you do want to get into this industry in the US, your competition, most people don't have more than 2 years of experience at this point. So just figure out what you're doing in your current job that would be valuable to them, what you bring to the table, and just kind of being forward about that, and just opening up each conversation in terms of wanting to talk to people and learn about their experience, and people want to talk about themselves. So like the hit rate's pretty good.
You're doing a great job of talking about yourself, man. So don't stop anytime soon. But no, on a serious note, I mean, no, sincerely do appreciate it. That's always one thing. I mean, with this show, what I do want people to understand, and you kind of alluded to it too, you want to work in sports, but what the hell does that mean? It's an entire industry. You can do a lot of things. You can do marketing, you can do finance, you can do sales, you can be an athlete, you can be a coach, you can be, operations. There's so many different things, and understanding that, there's not just, work at ESPN, be on camera, or be an athlete. There's a lot of other things that happen behind the scenes where people can make a very good living and do something and work for somewhere that they truly do love. So you bring up that point, and it's good for people to understand that. Yes, I get LinkedIn messages all the time, and I send LinkedIn messages all the time, and 9 times out of 10, most people are nice. They're willing to help. They want to help because they understand like this is an industry where it's very much who you know. Obviously you have to execute, but there's so many people that can execute. You need to know people to get to those points, right? So clearly you did the right thing. I hopefully did the right thing. I mean, I'm still here, so I'm doing something right. And you make a good point too, especially with gambling and betting. There's only so many people that can have experience legally, I guess, in the country. So I am kind of curious, especially with that, that being my lead-in, working for a London-based firm, or at least headquarters, or Israel. You said, I know you said they have a place over in London as well. With that being so ingrained into like soccer culture and culture over in Europe, where like they have kiosks in the stadium where you can bet at, and now here it's still like only available in like 20 states. What is it like kind of working with that team over there, or just for that company where it's been second nature for so long, and now here it's kind of like this new cool fun thing we have in America?
Sure. It's an interesting dynamic, and I'm on, I think, my third week, so I'll speak to it as much
Okay,
as I
yeah,
as
I'll have
much
you
as
on again.
yeah,
I'll have you on again.
I'll speak to it as much as I can. But so the team that I work with that's kind of focused on building out the US content platforms and websites um, in Israel. And after being there for a week and a half, to actually follow US sports is very challenging just with the time difference, 7 hours. Um, so in Israel, sports betting is not legal, but in London, like you said, it's second nature in the culture. And in the US, it is something that's such an interesting dynamic, right? Because Vegas has been around forever, and kind of that like nuance around going to the sports book, getting the ticket, watching the football game, cashing it. I've been once since I'm 21, and it's really cool. Like, it's a cool experience. But ultimately, like, we live, and you have a podcast, you get it. We live in a digital world and a mobile world, so like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Indiana, these different states that have the mobile, it's like it's such a totally different user experience, and it's kind of coming out from behind the shadows, right? Where New Jersey had Atlantic City, but now that they're getting all these different sports books fired up, and like I said, each state really is approaching it its own way. Am I answering your original question? I forget
Doesn't
exactly.
matter. You're doing a great job talking, and I like listening to you. So you keep going, man.
Okay, thank you. I forget your original question, but I
Honestly,
think
I do too. So it's cool.
okay, nice. But no, I think it is something where there's kind
We're
of there's the education process for everyone. So you have some people that have more experience in like the gaming industry if they worked for, like, say, Hard Rock Casino in Las Vegas or Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, whatever it may be. But um, people are trying to learn from what happened in the European markets, but also it's like trying to figure out a localized approach to capture this new user to the gaming market. And FanDuel and DraftKings out of the gate, the first year and a half, have done the best job at it.
Yeah.
Um,
And now we have the whole Barstool thing too with Penn,
yeah,
Penn
yeah,
National, Penn Gaming, which
right.
is going to be crazy because
Mm-hmm.
their fans are just they love
Rabid.
rapid. Thank you. I was going to say ravenous. Same thing though. It's
Mm-hmm.
insane what they're capable of doing. And I saw that they're starting. Penn National, Penn Gaming, whatever the hell the name of the company
Yeah,
is.
you
They're
got it. Penn
starting.
National
Okay,
Gaming. So
Penn
either way,
National
you got
Gaming.
it.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Awesome, killing it, man.
all the above. See.
But they're pretty much just taking that Barstool name, and now they're just going to have a sports book. Like, it's such
Mm-hmm.
a brilliant move on Erica Nardini and Dave Portnoy and whoever the guys and girls on the other side of the table.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's brilliant because Barstool, like, yeah, they have 66 million people that pay attention to their stuff a month, but I'm confident many more people know what or who Barstool is, to the point where if they
Mm-hmm.
see something like, oh, a Barstool Sportsbook, there's just that, William Hill. Not that many people, in my opinion, in the United States know who William Hill is. Like, they're becoming, obviously, we see their commercials all the time now, but I don't know. You
Yeah.
tell me. You're a little bit you're 3 weeks longer in the industry than I am, but I didn't hear anything. I've watched a lot of sports in my life. I've done a little bit of side gambling. Never heard of William Hill until a couple year and change ago when it finally became legal in New Jersey. And then I started hearing the name pop up. But
Mm-hmm.
Barstool's been around since 2015, and really getting into the lexicon like 2016, 2017, where it's everywhere. And I wouldn't be surprised if more people start gambling because of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll hit on a couple of the things you said. I think William Hill, they're massive in
Oh
the
my God, yeah.
UK and London. But yeah, until I started kind of my networking process, it was unfamiliar to me. But they're doing well in New Jersey. They're growing at a pretty good clip. But the Barstool thing is so interesting because the rumors came out a few months ago, and I've followed their stuff pretty closely since I graduated college. I guess 5-6 years ago at this point. But they do such an interesting job of capturing the key demographic right now of what a majority of the U.S. sports betting population is, which is currently it's like a 22 to 35, 40 male living. A lot of them live in like an urban setting, and that's a lot of what Barstool has. That 66 million that you mentioned, and their ability to be all over social media. The thing that I'm very curious about, I like flipped through the presentation deck that Penn National put out. Barstool has launched this Barstool Bets for a few months now, and they've been pushing it a bit. I've noticed it on social media, and they kind of talk about it's a free-to-play contest app, so it's not actually a sports book, but you can sign up. Whatever you do well, you win $100, $1,000. But they've only had I think they have it was like 39 or 49 million people across like Instagram and Twitter. Don't quote me on it. Maybe 15 million. But on Barstool Bets, they've only converted like about 100,000 users at this point. I think a lot of that is because maybe it's just like free to play, and a lot of their base is probably betting somewhere else. And they kind of put those stats in there that I think, I forget, upwards of 50%, I think, of their base bets about weekly. So I agree. I think it's going to be fascinating. Like anytime Dave Portnoy has to be a little bit more buttoned up, it's amusing to me. Someone who follows it, and he's all over the place. So they're gonna have to be a little more controlled, I think, than they have been. But I think it's a great play because until I like really started doing my research on the industry, I wasn't super familiar with Penn National Gaming, and they were smart enough to kind of realize like, who are the key players right now that are killing it? FanDuel, DraftKings. Why is that? Because they've had this user base of, there's 43 states in the U.S. where DFS is legal. What do? Okay, now sportsbook's available in your state. Push notification, boom. I think Barstool is going to be able to tap into similar kind of stuff, and they've been able to mobilize their customers, right? Whether it's One Bite and this pizza app that started as a gimmick, like a lot of their stuff does, but then it becomes real thing. And they drive business and traffic. So it's going to be fascinating. And like, for instance, BetMGM did a deal with Yahoo Sports. So if you're in New Jersey and you're on the Yahoo Sports app, you see the lines for the game that you're looking at. And if you click in that, then you're in BetMGM's app. So like I said, one of the things that's interesting to me outside of just like having it be fun to be a recreational bettor, there's like a lot of innovative marketing techniques that people are trying to use to try and capture these users.
Yeah, and it is really interesting kind of just seeing, because you have to align, essentially, as you said, Yahoo Sports is now aligning with BetMGM. So you're starting to see the media companies get tied up with these and start laying in bed with the betting companies, the ones that actually control the money and the sports books, essentially, and kind of seeing how they're going to play off of each other and what they're going to do. I hate Yahoo Sports. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah, just all of it. Like, I hate their fantasy is god awful. I've done baseball and football on it, and I hate it. I can't stand it.
What do you like doing it through then? That's so interesting.
ESPN. I maybe it's because I just started there, I think, and there's just like, obviously there's the familiarity, but there's just something about it. It feels like Yahoo's still like 4 or 5 years behind in their user interface, in the way they lay everything out and how it's laid out. It's so stupid in my opinion, but that's probably me. I know a lot of people that like Yahoo more than ESPN, so it's probably a me thing, but it is very interesting.
Yeah, I guess it's the opposite for me. I think I've done like 1 or 2 fantasy leagues in the course of my life on ESPN. Everything else has been Yahoo, so that's just kind of what I'm used to. I like their mobile app a little better than ESPN. I think slightly less buggy, but do you live in New Jersey? You do, right? So do you bet through some of these different apps?
I do it very, very occasionally on FanDuel. No, DraftKings. I do more on DraftKings. But again, it's the same thing. Like, and this is another point, so I do occasionally throw down bets and I always lose. So I stop betting as much as I can because I'm terrible at it. My brother fades me. He just asks me, "Oh, what are you putting money down on?" And then he just fades me and he wins money. So it's kind of funny. But
you could just fade your own brain.
I've tried, man. I've tried. I don't know if you watch Seinfeld at all, but it just doesn't quite work like that. But it's the one thing that does scare me just a little bit with especially it being so easy to bet on some of these things. I was out at a party. It was a friend's birthday or whatever, and there's some people that we don't see on a regular basis there. And the one guy, it was during the Ohio State Wisconsin, the Big Ten national championship game. And Ohio State is down 21-0 or something, or it was like 21-7. It was something weird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they were
right.
losing early.
Yeah, they were losing, and it was weird. And we were just BSing on the couch, and the kid pulls out the kid, he's 29, 30. He pulls out his phone, and he's like, I'm going to definitely take a live bet on this game. So first off, live betting is terrifying. That's just right there. They're trying to help you lose money, in my opinion. It's never as easy as it sounds. It never is. But
or win.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm a loser. So, but he pulls it out, and he takes the live bet, and he had no idea what he was betting on. He only knew how much money he was betting. He didn't really understand. I was like, oh, like, what's the live line? He's like, I don't really know. And I was like, okay, well, okay, are you going to take the money line? He's like, I don't know what that is. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to put $20 on Ohio State to win and hope Ohio State wins. And I was like, that's kind of terrifying. Now, maybe this is a one-off, but I feel like because it's so accessible at this point, there's a lot more people like him than not like him, because it's so much easier to bet now that he was just playing DFS anyway. So he now can start betting on games, and he does, and he doesn't really know how he's doing it or exactly what he's doing. He's just kind of knowing he's putting $20 down and he might win money. Like, I don't know how you feel about that. Obviously you've been in the industry a little bit longer. Not the industry, but like you've been betting a little bit longer. So I don't know if you've seen too much of that or anything, or how you feel about, that aspect of it too.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a bit of an education process that has to happen as this becomes more and more mainstream. You see it on a lot of the media platforms, like for instance, Action Network on their homepage. They have a bunch of educational videos kind of going through like what is a spread bet, what's a money line, what's over under, what's a parlay, all these different things, because I agree. I think that's potential risk. You have people that are kind of aimlessly betting that don't know what they're doing, just because maybe they think it's cool or they want to fit in. But hopefully, these different media platforms kind of continue to push these educational resources. I haven't been on their websites as much recently, but I believe like FanDuel, DraftKings on their sites, like they do have. Typically they will provide some kind of resource or guide. I think it's a little bit up to the user in a sense to like go through the onus of if you don't.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right. If you don't know what you're doing.
Hey man, if you're willing to throw $20 down, you should probably know what you're throwing it on, right? Like it's very much up to the user. But I also think it's so easy, and drunk people love to do things so much that really anything's possible.
Yeah, it's interesting. It definitely is. I think the gaming companies also kind of have the responsibility, right, of like these different responsible gaming laws, where obviously at the end of the day they make a bulk of their money when a bettor loses, right? But they do have the onus of monitoring different people's activities, and if it seems like a little bit like they're constantly chasing, it's more or less kind of shut them down in a sense. So I think it is something that is going to be a test of a lot of people's will, right? Because at the end of the day, these companies are pushing different kinds of promotions on users. I think there's inevitably some downside to this, right? Where you have some people that maybe would not be exposed to gambling, and there's a chance they could become addicted, right? That's worst case scenario.
Yeah.
For this widespread. But I think there's a lot more positives out of legal gambling, and especially legal mobile gambling, because I don't know the exact percentage of people that are betting offshore now that are on these apps, but I think you still have, and just from being a bettor myself, knowing people that live in New Jersey, you still have a lot of people that aren't even necessarily betting on the apps if they have them accessible, because they're just kind of used to what they know. But instead of having a user kind of going into that kind of offshore, a little bit more shady of a market, you're able to legalize it. You have the people that are tracked. You can see like everything, your bet history, your deposit history. And the activity is happening somewhere, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you might as well allow the government to tax it, take a piece of the revenue, put it towards educational efforts, or they're kind of all earmarking it for different things. But that's my spin zone for you there.
I like that. I like that. Oh, honey, they're drinking anyway. Why don't we just let them drink here, right? At least we can keep our eyes on them. And it's a legitimate
Yeah.
argument. It's a legitimate argument.
It's the thing that's amazing to me is I saw this article today. So far in like legal reported handle, which is like the total amount bet. So say you put in $500 bets over the course of a month, that's $500 total handle. The legal reported handle for the Super Bowl was, I believe, like 240 million to date for this past week's game. So that's legal. But there's an article that came out earlier in the week. The projected amount of money bet on the game was $6.8 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's that comes
It's
back to the point,
insane.
right, where like let's just like clip it and put it towards new schools or infrastructure or healthcare, whatever it may be. Like it's happening. So let's like not just turn a blind eye to it.
100%. I read something. I think with total handle, I think in the industry is like 150 billion or whatever. It's an insane number.
Yeah.
But the legal, I think, has maybe made it to about 4 billion, if I'm not mistaken. So like
Yeah, it's
it's
something around
so
there, 4 or
short. I can't
5.
remember the exact numbers, but it is so short. And yeah, there's so much more. And as you said, people even here in New Jersey, I know people that still run books, right? Like I know people that still run books because it wasn't legal and they just have, the people are just used to what they're used to. So they just keep doing what they're doing and everybody's happy and no one's angry about it. But you're completely right. One thing I will say about that Super Bowl number with, the box pools, that would be
Right.
that's the only thing where, like I know my parents are in a couple where it's, it's
It,
$100 a
it's
box.
and
Like
it's
we're not
then
messing around.
that's
Exactly.
gambling,
Yeah.
right? That's
Right.
gambling.
Yeah.
Same
So I
thing
mean,
March Madness, like even your office pool.
yeah.
Yeah, that's gambling.
Yep, 100%. And
Fantasy football.
at least making it somewhat legal, helps a little bit, as you said. And I really do like the point that you make. Is it, you're going to mybookie.ag. Well, I've never been on that one. That's just one I've heard of. But there's some of these offshore ones. Maybe they aren't really tracking, your deposit history. Maybe they aren't really tracking everything to the utmost standard. Where now with these legal ones, the DraftKings, the FanDuels, William Hills, you have everything very clearly laid out, which just gives you, I guess, a little bit of solace, I guess, is that the word I'm looking for. A little bit of a credibility. You're kind of happier, it's someone's at least paying attention to it a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a itemized receipt, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
kind of nice. Lay it all out there.
Exactly. What are my pluses? What are my minuses? How much am I down? So a couple more things, definitely. I mean, again, I understand you've only been at your job for a few weeks, but I'm kind of curious, like as a partnership manager, what exactly does that mean? I know you said the company's goal is to help sportsbooks acquire new users. Does that mean you are like relationship manager to these sports books? Are you looking for new and in creative ways to find users? How exactly are you, especially again, understanding it's only been 3 weeks, I'm sure I'll have a lot more questions in a year, but
Sure.
what exactly, what do you see the job looking like when you kind of get into your swing of things?
Sure. So that you kind of hit on it. There's an element of relationship management, managing the relationships with all the different U.S. sports books that we have partnerships with. So the company is kind of their key focus right now is in the UK and European betting markets, a little bit in Asia, Latin America, but obviously the US creates a big opportunity. So my boss and I are the two US employees focused on sports betting. So manage those relationships, figuring out creative ways that we can drive users leveraging either our in-house publishing or kind of trying to evaluate other third-party partnerships, kind of seeing what sports-related websites or news websites are out there where maybe we can add basically that digital marketing layer of whether it's the ad or a creative way to monetize potential user. And also there's the element of we have a team dedicated to running our U.S. sites. Some of the team members are Israeli and, like, quite frankly, aren't as close to U.S. sports. The guy that runs the site is from the U.S. He's a big sports fan, but also helping him with kind of some of the content strategy. And as we build out different the social media platforms, potentially podcasts online, YouTube channel, things like that. Like, it's all very nascent. So wearing a number of different hats, whether it's relationship management, a little bit of sales, and trying to evaluate different creative ways that we can build this thing out.
It's more fun wearing a couple different hats, right? You get to dip your feet into a couple different pools. Probably more difficult, but at the same time, you get to do more things. That's always more enjoyable.
Yeah, it was something I was looking for when I was looking for a change. Just having something that's a little more agile, entrepreneurial, which I'm sure you can appreciate given what you're up to.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I always love to see that. And I think it's great. I think what you're doing is cool. I really like your story and the fact that you clearly have also been able to draw upon a lot of the things you did in finance. I mean, obviously, you said relationship manager already. You've been on the operations team with some of these places. You know the numbers. You understand those things. You're able to kind of take them and obviously take pieces of each of those and turn that into, the current job you're in, and be able to kind of draw upon your past experiences, get better at them, and kind of find a way to take that ball of yarn and push it down the hill, I guess, for lack of a better term. But I think your story is cool, going from finance to starting a podcast to then 18 months later getting a job in the industry that you started the podcast in. I think it is super cool. And Cody, you're an inspiration to so many, and I want you to know that, man.
Thanks, Michael. That's probably way too much credit, but I appreciate it.
Now, well, when more people hear this story, hopefully they will believe that, and it's great. And yeah, man, I mean, that's all I got. I was going to ask about the 49ers, but we all know Kyle Shanahan should have ran the ball on 2nd and 5, and I don't really need to tell you that. So, cool, man. Really appreciate your time today, Cody. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for that. But yeah, my brother and I, we had our therapy session yesterday on our podcast. We normally do during the football season, the Sunday night, Sunday Scaries podcast. We did a Monday edition because we were just broken Sunday after the game. And I thought it would help talking about it, but it didn't. But yeah, it's gonna sting. It's gonna sting for a bit there. Yeah,
hey, it is what it is. So I guess moving forward, obviously you guys have been through over a year now, so you kind of know a little bit about at least what you've done and how you're going to do it. So moving forward, is it going to be a lot of basketball betting? Do you guys pay attention to baseball? I mean, you have to pay attention to baseball in the summer, but are you guys going to pay attention to XFL at all? Like, what are you guys looking forward to over the next year?
I am intrigued in XFL. I actually think this one might stick around more than the AAF did. But yeah, we'll do college basketball, we'll do NBA, MLB for sure. We're all those things. And we definitely, during football seasons or on the Blue Wire podcast network, we were able to leverage that and bring on some of their guys that are more like beat reporters and specialized to a team. I think we're going to try and continue doing that, just getting on interesting guests, whether they're CEO of a up-and-coming kind of sports gambling company or more like niche to a specific team or sport. So yeah, we will find creative ways to get through a year of content, but it's easy. This time of year is easy. The summer is when you kind of have to get really creative.
Yeah, July and August. I mean, once NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs are over, it's just baseball, which I'm okay with. But I can see how people that like all sports, it could get pretty boring, especially if you're a Mets fan or a Giants fan this year. Your team's probably not going to be that great. So we're kind of just by August be like, all right, well that was fun. Can't wait for football again.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It is what it is. But sincerely, Cody, this was absolutely fantastic. I'll make sure send me all the links for the podcast so I can make sure a couple extra people maybe check out yours and hear what you and your brother got going on. I appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.